Hey everyone, welcome to a brand new SPSM Chat Suicide Prevention Social Media. I'm Rudy Caceres. I'm going to take you on a journey today. So, we're talking about dance movement therapy. So, we're going to dance, we're going to move, and you're damn right, we are going to therapy. Except we're really not like we take no responsibility at all for mental health advice. Do not listen to us at all. So, if you're watching this live, please let us know that you're here. Let us know that you give a shit by using the hashtag SPSM. I'm going to make sure that I pin this Periscope to the top of our Twitter page. But if you are watching on Facebook, hello, how are you? If you're watching on YouTube, which is usually no one, hello, unless you're watching it after the fact on spsmchat.com. That's totally fine as well. Still feel free to leave comments. If you're on Mixer, and that's probably no one because Marie's not on, that's totally fine too. So, again, I'm Rudy Caceres, at Rudy Caceres on Twitter. Hopefully you know that already. Make sure, again, use the hashtag SPSM. If it's Sunday, it's SPSM Chat. Let's go around the squared rectangle and introduce our co-host. First of all, tell us, Joelle Marie, who are you?
Hi, my name is Joelle Marie. I am a peer specialist and mental health consultant. I'm actually really interested in this topic. I went to Lesley University, which really is well known nationwide and worldwide for their expressive arts therapies programs. And I minored in art therapy. So I'm really, really interested in this talk today.
Let's take it to our next co-host.
Oh boy.
It's Danielle.
Hi everyone, I'm Danielle. I am a therapist currently working with children and families. I will be a licensed practicing counselor in 4 months, as well as a licensed alcohol and substance abuse counselor. And I actually integrated movement therapy into one of my sessions about a week ago. So I'm very excited about tonight too.
You look great this week, Danielle.
I wonder why. I got this really awesome webcam from these two people.
There we go. Let's take it to our next co-host, one of my favorite people in the world. No offense, everyone else.
Hi, everybody. My name is Hudson Harris. I am a behavioral health systems designer. I also work with how to use mental health, high performance, different things like that to make your lives better. Good teams, different things like that. And I am a proud pig dad who you'll meet later, Sir Hamlet Pig. I love to dance terribly. I love to terribly dance. Both are actually grammatically appropriate, but I do enjoy dancing, and I'm very excited for tonight.
Now, let's address the elephant in the room. What's going on with the goatee? Yes, I'm not talking about Kobe. What's going on with your goatee?
Like, Joelle, when you color your hair, is it because you need like a change and different things and like things are going on high anime?
Yeah. I mean, when I color my hair, it's an expression of me to different degrees, and like it's a stress relief, and it's like how to get stuff out.
Yeah. So 2019 kicked me where the good Lord split me on the way out, and so a little bit of change. I thought about going red or some type of fuchsia, but I just decided instead I would grow a little bit of a facial hair. Do you like it, Rudy?
Yeah, I like to say this is the Vision Quest, Hudson. And last but certainly most, let's bring on our guest, and she's going to tell the whole world, the whole SPSM Chat, Universe, Galaxy, Solar System, who is Jennifer Sterling.
I am a registered dance movement psychotherapist and a holistic nutritionist based in New York City. And I spend most of my time supporting women of color who are living with depression and helping them to become more in tune with their bodies and manage their depression in really holistic ways.
Now, before we get into our first question, let's give some shout out to people that are joining us. Hey, how you doing, Kevin? Coming all the way from Facebook. Thank you. Make sure, if you haven't already, Kevin, make sure to like the SPSM Facebook page, facebook.com/SPSM. I appreciate you. Earlier this week, we had Nicole, who's an awesome person. I got to meet her in person a couple of years ago. Said she got to meet you, Jen. Sorry for covering your face, but I thought that was a nice comment. So I appreciate that. That's a great summation also of the work that you do. So you have fans, Jennifer. Just know that you're doing awesome work. Let's give some shout outs to the people on Twitter as well. Shout out to SPSM Chat. Hudson coming all the way from SPSM Chat. So that's cool. Let's see if I have to upload or refresh this. Maybe no one's watching. That's totally fine. So let's get on to our first question. And question number one, that would be, what are some possible benefits of working with a movement therapist when dealing with suicidal ideation? This is the Suicide Prevention Social Media Chat. So, of course, we got to fit suicide in somehow. So we'll start with Stephanie. Or let's start with Jennifer.
Yeah, so one of the things that I find most beneficial when working with folks who have or experiencing suicidal ideation is entering in through the body rather than entering in more cognitively with thoughts. A lot of people will come to me and say, well, I've been trying to change my thoughts and I've been trying to, question my thoughts and really use a lot of the things that they've learned in more conventional talk therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, which I think are great tools. But when you're experiencing emotional distress, sometimes it's really helpful to come to a place where you can start to regulate the nervous system on a body level, because that then helps to shift some of the thoughts. To try and shift thoughts when you're in a period of emotional distress can sometimes be really challenging. So I tend to enter from the bottom up rather than from the top down. And I find that to be really helpful and beneficial for a lot of my clients and patients.
Well, we appreciate the work you do. Can you talk about the I guess the accreditation organization that you belong to? Because I know that's might be a question that might pop up on Twitter. So you are certified.
Yeah, I am registered as a dance movement therapist by the American Dance Therapy Association. And there are two accreditations, I guess, or two credentials that you can have. So you start off with a registration, and that just means that you have to be supervised for a period of time by a board certified dance movement therapist who is someone who's been in the field long enough to practice more independently. So I am working underneath actually two board certified dance movement therapists at this point.
All right. Before we get to Joelle, let's give a quick shout out to Dr. Catherine Gordon, who was a previous guest talking about eating disorders. Says, let's just get her up on here. Says, not a movement therapist, but it seems like physical engagement activity can be a powerful way to cope with suicidal ideation when the thoughts are overwhelming. Thank you so much, Katie. I appreciate you. Let's go to Joelle.
I think that going off what Jennifer said, I mean, just from my personal experience, when I am in extreme distress, it's physically overpowering, and I don't have a lot of control over what I'm feeling and how to interpret what I'm feeling. And I think that really, having some kind of guide in a trusted space to help interpret those feelings and maybe try to cope with those feelings would really help. It's very hard and it's very painful. Like, it's physically painful to experience extreme emotions, and that only kind of lends to a cycle of extreme distress, extreme pain, and then not knowing what to do with it. It feels like extremely abnormal, and it's hard to explain. So I really do think that, dance movement therapy would be very helpful for somebody like me personally.
What say you, Danielle?
So the fun thing about me as a therapist is that I'm the exact opposite of Jennifer, where I am very based in cognitive behavioral therapy and all of that kind of stuff. And I found once I did some movement stuff with one of my kiddos about a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago, it was fun for me as a therapist as well, because it was a different way to express their feelings. I don't even know. It's something that I would like to personally learn more about from Jennifer specifically, because she's awesome. Because I feel like I need to become more eclectic in my own work. I see the benefits of it because it made said client very happy and we had a lot of fun. So it was just nice to try something different and see how they responded, because they maintained that good mood for the rest of the week. So
What say you, Hudson? And we will get to your question, Kevin Fitz, in just a minute. Hudson?
So I am not a therapist, but when I saw that you were going to come on, I did a bunch of reading into the science, and like I've always been one that kind of extols the virtues of dance and active movement and all those types of things when it comes to helping general cognitive state. But I was really surprised when I dug into the research and like treatment-resistant depression in veterans, movement therapy and exercise reduced suicidality by like double-digit percentages. Hey, Rudy, I'm not a therapist. I might be a pig therapist because Hamlet will honk to me. But I was floored. And then the other one that I read really blew my mind. Suicide prevention and mental health in the K through 12 space is something that is really important to me. The research they did on directive movement, exercise, physical education, dance in the K through 12 space, it was unbelievable impacts on reducing overall suicidality, suicidal thoughts, even impacted bullying in bullied kids. Like it was pretty incredible. So I just wanted to throw a little bit of that in there, that I've always believed in it, but I had no idea that the science supported it so overwhelmingly.
Okay, Jennifer, we had a question from Facebook from Kevin Fitz, who's doing awesome work himself. Says, define expressive meditation. What say you?
My understanding of expressive meditation is that it's utilizing art or music or movement or some sort of creative modality as a means of quieting the thoughts. So sometimes people will do like walking meditations. I have myself a moving meditation album that folks can access on Spotify as well. But it's entering that space of quieting the mind in a way that's a little more creative than just what most people think of as meditation, sitting on a pillow and, really working really hard to quiet the thoughts that you're having and settle into the body.
Thank you, Jennifer, and great question, Kevin. If you're watching on Facebook, just know, please comment. We want to hear from you. I can see your comments, so if I don't get to them right away, just know I see them. So let's take it back to Twitter and see what people have to say on there. Katie Gort, we already got to Katie. Okay, so Anya, who will be at AAS 20, I'm excited to finally meet you, Anya, who won the Nina Guten Live to Tell Lived Experience Award. So congrats to Anya. Says in response to question number 1, says movement like dance can be a great way to express yourself, such as using choreography to tell a story or show one's feelings. Peter Olson says, I'm really stoked for this week. I've been raving for a very long time. Going to raves and dancing has been an amazing therapeutic thing for me. Joelle says, having a safe and guiding space to understand that and practice movement and body understanding would be incredibly helpful. Emotional extremes can be painful at times. Joelle also says, I think there are all kinds of ways that distress and trauma can interrupt our self-awareness cognitively. It does for me, and how we interpret emotions and internal responses. I have very, very physical responses to extreme distress and incredible difficulty shutting that down. So let's get to question number 2. You see that on Twitter, but also if you are on Facebook, YouTube, or Mixer, Please also answer as well. Just leave a comment on your platform of choice. If you're watching later on the day, later on the week, later on the month, that's totally fine. We love it when people go back into the archives or just happen to discover us on YouTube. You can also go check out spsmchat.com. Question number 2. And that would be, let's bring it back up. Why, this is a doozy. What are some ways that dance movement therapy can be integrated into other activities or supportive environments which concentrate on the most vulnerable populations? Let's take it back to Jennifer.
Yeah, so a lot of times when I say dance movement therapy, people think like I have to have a lot of space. And even in mental health facilities, they, most frequently will hire art therapists or music therapists just because they feel like they don't have the space for a dance movement therapist. And what I always say to that is that you don't actually need a lot of space, because dance movement therapy can encompass a lot of things. It can be breathing, it can be paying attention to sensations in your body, it can be really small, kind of slow micro movements, and ranges from there even into much bigger, more expressive movement. So I think having that sort of understanding then helps us to bring it into different environments and helps people to integrate movement, at least in their everyday life, in a way that works for their bodies and their space. And I think in that way it can work in various environments and with various people of various capabilities. And understanding that movement can be integrated into many different aspects and activities, but movement therapy itself is a practice of having a therapist with training kind of analyze movement and analyze what's going on with an understanding of the body and the nervous system. So it's not necessarily something that I would recommend doing completely on your own, but you can be more bodyful or aware of your body in your everyday life. And we can integrate those sorts of things into other practices with the understanding that you don't have to, it doesn't have to be choreography, it doesn't have to be in a big dance studio. You really can do it anywhere.
And let's take it to Joelle. And thank you so much, Hudson, for sharing the Spotify playlist. I will retweet that right now from the SPSM Chat Twitter account. What say you, Joelle?
I think, yeah, I would respect sorry, I can't think of the word. Not the practice, but like the institution of a therapeutic training, and like never try to say like I'm instituting a therapy in a different environment, but integrating like principles and practices, kind of like ideas that I would find helpful or that I see as beneficial. So if I know that, something helps me breathe or move, like I would probably use that in everyday life. So if I know that something has connected me and given me more relaxation, it's hard to use specifics, but so one instance I can think of is when I was a Girl Scout counselor, a day camp Girl Scout counselor, where, a lot of different kids would go, and it tends to be very welcoming where I went and I was a counselor, regardless of income. We would do a lot of things that involved like breathing and movement, and that seemed to be very good in terms of helping kids settle down, helping kids like really center themselves. And that's not dance movement therapy, but I think it's a way to have kids move and sort of settle into themselves and balance out their day.
Danielle?
I'm always muted. Can you please put the question back up? I'm doing homework here on the side.
There we
and
go.
I apologize. All right. I feel like I had an experience. I'm a trained actress, which not a lot of people know. And we did a lot of movement technique and other types of stuff, before we went on stage, this, that, and the other thing. And after Stephanie connected me with Jennifer, I've been thinking of trying to how to incorporate it in my sessions with my clients. And the one thing that I gained from all of it, personally was being more connected with my body. And I suffered from like the most severe anxiety in the history of the world. And I'm trying to use more of this like movement type stuff with my kiddos who struggle with extreme anxiety. So that means to me, taking them for a walk is just as, you know, important as teaching them like muscle relaxation. I'm just trying to incorporate all of that stuff. And I feel like I have a lot more research to do as a clinician before I feel like I can appropriately answer this question. And I do apologize that I'm not more prepared for this question. But I just think there's a lot of benefits of all of this kind of stuff, even outside of therapy. Yeah, that's all I got for you. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Let's take it to Hudson.
Oh, hello. So I'm a big fan of getting kids to do stuff that's good for them and they don't know that it's good for them. And I would love to see this type of work incorporated into physical education programs in K through 12 spaces. I think the thing that really gets me about dance therapy that like made me really excited about today was really this idea that when everything else is crumbling around you and things are going really bad, especially as they happen with kids a lot, whether it's, you know, perceived or angst, being able to move in your own body and be aware of how you're moving in your body and that type of almost subconscious training of like, here's how to do these things. It gives them agency and it teaches them how to, you know, that they are in charge of their own body and how to do that. So I would sneak it in at schools as much as possible. And then I'd love to see it online. Like I love the movement therapy classes that you offer, Jen, and like that. I love that. That's another place that we could really push it out there and we get more people.
Thank you, Hudson. Always looking great. I appreciate you. Let's keep on moving along. We are making great time, but let's just go right into question number 3. Why don't we? We can spend a little bit more time on this because we have another doozy. Question number 3. If people have extreme distress around pain, disability, or self-image, could dance movement be made accessible, and would it be helpful to someone who is needing support involving those issues? So give you a little time to sink that in, and I'll let you respond when you're ready. Because I know it's a big one, but I think that was Joelle's question, so I thank you, Joelle, for coming up with that because it is a good one.
Yeah, I think, and I know from just my experience working with individuals that have eating disorders and issues around body image, that dance movement therapy offers a space where you can sort through a lot of those things. And sometimes when we have concerns around self-image, we tend to get stuck on what's wrong. And dance movement therapy, movement in general, I think can create a space where you can start exploring with more curiosity than judgment what is right or what is neutral. And so I find it to be really helpful in that way for self-image and body image. When it comes to pain and disability and extreme distress, there's a lot of focus on really working within one's window of tolerance. And that is something that's taken from Stephen Porges's polyvagal theory. So really understanding how much you can move or how much you can express without creating space where you're either hyper aroused or, you know, hypo aroused or really depressed and kind of shut down. Or if you're experiencing pain, how much you can, what capability you have without feeling that, without feeling extreme or chronic pain. And sometimes folks will surprise themselves because they can do a little more than cognitively they thought they could do once you really just start getting curious and exploring how the body can move and what the body can do from a place that is really focused on taking care of yourself and honoring the body and honoring your emotions rather than kind of pushing those things away or pushing through it. So I do find in my work that it is really helpful for all of those things. And if there are disabilities, of course, we're working within the person's capacity and within their capabilities with a focus on what they can do as opposed to what's not there and what can't be done. So it's always about exploring possibility and being really curious.
Can I ask a
Thank you,
question,
Jennifer.
Rudy?
Oh,
Can I ask a
sure,
question,
sure,
please?
Hudson.
So I get, focusing on the ability and what people can do. What do you say when somebody gets in their own head about their own limitations, or about, I want to be able to do this, but I can't? What do you say? Like, how do you talk someone through that?
So in those sort of instances, what I tend to do is say, okay, I understand and I hear you that you want to be at this place. So let's figure out if that is something that can be done. What is the next doable step to get you to that place? And then we keep doing the next doable step and see how close we can get to that mark, without really entering that space of, that's not possible. Because sometimes in just exploring what is doable, we can find some sort of satisfaction, and sometimes we actually reach the goal. But a lot of times we want to just be at the end point. So exploring what is the next most doable step from here. And maybe it's just moving a finger. Okay, well, what's the next most doable place from that point, and building up from there rather than focusing. It's more about process than the end point.
Do you script the journey? So, like, I've been through a lot of PT and had some different broken bones and things like that. And so I've had PT and I've had rehab where it was very scripted, like, I want to be here and I go through these steps to get there. Or do you find a more organic approach helps people? Yeah, which one do you what do you do? Or is it both? I mean, maybe that's both.
Yeah, it depends on the person. So some people actually thrive in that more kind of scripted place, and we can go through all of the steps, and then they can, kind of practice those steps if that feels good for them. But a lot of the work is really finding what's organic and what happens naturally, because that's where for a lot of people the most authentic expression occurs. But it's not to say that it can't happen when things are scripted or choreographed or anything like that. So it depends on the person and what they feel most comfortable and safest, the way that they feel most comfortable and safest to explore.
Thanks, Jennifer. I hope that satisfied you, Hudson.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks. We have a question from Krista Marie, who's our producer. Before we get to Joelle, just want to get to Krista's question. Says, to Jennifer, of course, did you have formal dance training / experience before you started doing dance movement therapy? How much formal dance stuff is pulled into DMT?
I did. I was doing mostly modern dance and West African dance through college, and then when I went into graduate school, also continuing to dance. And as far as like what's pulled into dance movement therapy, you don't have to be a dancer to work with a dance movement therapist, because we really feel like everybody moves, right? Even if you're just breathing, there is movement happening in the body. So those are the types of things that we can explore. But if you are a trained dancer and that is something that you want to bring to the table, then that's also something that we can work with when it comes to self-expression and finding authentic ways to connect with the body.
Okay, let's get back to our regularly scheduled program. Let's get back to question number
Actually, can I interrupt
3.
and ask another question? I'm just kidding.
Oh, no worries. You good, Joelle?
Yeah, okay.
Question
Sorry, I was
number
having to look at
3.
the question. Yeah, I'm looking at the question again.
They're very long today. I feel like I need notes.
Well, we want to make sure that you can have a meaty answer as opposed to something pithy. So there we go.
So as somebody who does have a lot of distress around pain, like extreme distress, I've had a lot of suicidal thoughts actually around my chronic pain, which has a lot of highs and lows. I do really feel that something like dance movement therapy could be beneficial, and I think that having Jennifer really describe what the process might be, I definitely feel like it could be beneficial. A lot of people with chronic pain issues have gone through a lot of emotionally painful issues with providers and people who are supposed to support them professionally and supposed to help them professionally. And it's been difficult because they will do things like tell them that they're supposed to be at a certain goal, and if they aren't, that they aren't trying. But I think the description of dance movement therapy and the process in general, and this is what I've gotten from the amount of reading I've done, is that I do think it could be very beneficial, and it seems like it would be according to the person's needs and how they want to go.
All right, let's take it to Danielle, and shout out to Elise on Twitter, who's art therapist herself and doing great things in suicide prevention. What say you, Danielle? Like the glasses, by the way.
Thanks.
I can see myself in them, actually.
I know you can see the light from the computer, but I think as a fellow clinician, what I think is most important in my response to this question is meeting a person where they are. So if it's physical pain, a self-image issue, whatever it is, we all come with our own specialties in this background, in this field, rather. I feel like I can't speak. I've been writing so much this weekend. I'm very strong with cognitive behavioral therapy. I'm starting to integrate DBT into my work, and that's where I come from. So if I came from a background of psychodrama or art therapy or dance movement therapy, it's a matter of utilizing my background with my education to meet the person where they are, to help them get through whatever it is at that moment. So that's kind of where I would be going with this, because I don't know, because I don't have a background, how to properly word what it is that I'm trying to say in response to the question. But I do feel that this would be beneficial for someone like myself to start utilizing what the clients do, to the fact that it would create like more of an eclectic environment and allow me to find more things that would work with the client that I was dealing with in crisis, and whatever crisis that was. I don't think I made any sense.
No, that's fine. Just watch it back, and you'll totally see how much sense that you made. What about you, Hudson?
I have a question afterwards, just so I get that extra question in.
No worries. We're making good time.
That's excellent. I absolutely think that it should be incorporated into it. I think one of the things, there was a study. I'm gonna bootstrap a little bit of this, but there was a study last year that focused on the brain's ability to get creative and think in new pathways while walking, and the effects of walking and conscious movement lit up the brain in terms of its ability to do things. So like there's a little bit of the adage of, walk and talk and go through that stuff. And I feel like if you're working with someone that is, especially around pain, disability, self-image, if you're trying to create new pathways, and Jen, if I'm totally off, please tell me. I feel like if you're trying to create those new pathways and trying to, consciously correct those things, the science really supports the fact that movement helps with that. And so I would love to see that incorporated into a lot of the different places that you're going to work with people in those settings, because you're firing it up, you're getting the brain excited, plus all the other benefits of movement.
Was that your question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, does that track with what you see?
Absolutely. It certainly does. And even if you look at some of the research that is done on dance movement therapy and dementia or Alzheimer's, that creating new neural pathways for memory improvement and those types of things, the research is definitely there to support that. And also when it comes to chronic pain, giving the body more opportunity for choice can actually help to reduce some of the pain. So then we create different ways of movement and different ways of being in our body. So you are shifting things for sure. And that's something that I've had clients and patients mention to me, but the research is also there as well.
All right. Before we get to our last question, let's give some more shout outs. Hey, Salty Meg, how you doing on Periscope? Appreciate all your comments. Kevin Fitz, I know you shared a quite lengthy comment that's probably 3 times as long as all this. But I will definitely check that out as well. I know you made a lot of good points. So thank you, Kevin. I love it when people really get into the conversation. Rihanna Brand, another person that I admire deeply, says, hula hooping has helped me ground when I start dissociation, start slow and build from there. For the chronic pain, it hurt at first, cracking from being so stiff in production mode. Hooping and dance has helped release and let go, then continue the flow. Grow with the flow. Whatever movement you can find and feels good at the moment, go and grow with the flow. And I can attest, Rihanna is a hell of a hula hooper. So shout out to her. Shout out to Peter Olson, who says, I would love to see the rave community and the formalized dance therapy community join forces in some way. Both communities have so much to offer each other. Joelle says, in response to question number 2, being autistic and having sensory and gross motor coordination issues, who got into competitive swimming at a young age, had made a huge difference, helped with stress, and the pressure of H2O definitely was therapeutic in a lot of ways. Thank you, Joelle. Joelle, thank you. I'm glad that you and Rihanna are friends now. Cool. So, question number 4.
Rudy, you said I could ask my question.
Oh, shit. Oh, okay. Sorry. Go on,
It's a
Hudson.
two-part question, Jen.
Okay.
What was the last song you danced to, and what is your most favorite dance?
The last song I danced to, it's called Beyond Me, and I think the singer's name is Madison. I don't remember her last name, but kind of like an acoustic song. I tend to go for like slower, more sultry things if I'm just moving on my own. And what's my favorite dance? That's a tough one. I always kind of default when I'm with clients to the sprinkler, this one. I don't know if you can see it.
That's one of my specialties too. Funny.
Just because it tends to like break the ice a little bit, and I don't do it very well, and so it also lets them know that like you don't have to be a dancer, and we can be silly with this, and we can have fun with it. So that sometimes kind of breaks the ice a little bit.
I also can't do it very well.
Jennifer, can I ask you a question? A very, very important serious question.
Sure.
Okay. I work with children, like the itty bitty guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
How's your Fortnite dance game? Because they're trying to teach me this stuff, and it's probably the reason I'm not feeling well right now. I mean, are you good with it? Can you teach me so that I can impress my kids? Or
So
don't do it, Hudson. Don't do it. Don't. Please, I can't do those dances anymore. I'm like traumatized by them.
it's one of those things where you just have to get like silly with them, and it's one of the ways that I find kids, especially young boys, relate so much with Fortnite. So being able to do the dances, even if I don't do them well, opens up a whole world of possibilities for them, and actually can generate a lot of conversation, I found. So I don't do the shoot very well, and there's that crazy one with the hands. They love it. Yeah. But they love it. And so it's not even that you know how to do it well, it's that you're willing to be in it with them and see what comes from it, which kind of lights them up, because in a lot of instances they don't have somebody to like mirror back those types of things for them, or to really be in that joy or whatever they're feeling with them. So just trying it is enough to bring them out and create a rapport from a therapeutic sense.
All right, let's get to question number 4, and that is...
Yeah, we had a dance party.
Are you ready?
With kids, so.
Awesome. Why might it be important to involve expressive therapies in general as part of suicide prevention and support? Let's go back to Jennifer.
Yeah, I think this kind of brings the first question full circle. When you're in a place where you experience some sort of trauma, or you're having some sort of feeling more extreme distress, or you're maybe not even feeling so emotionally connected. Some people start to feel really numb when they're experiencing suicidal ideation. To be able to come to a place where it's not all about the mind, because we can get stuck in our mind quite a bit and trying to find reasons why, we should stay or why we shouldn't, act on those thoughts. But to be able to come into the body and have tools and resources that make you feel like maybe you have a little more sense of control over what's going on, because you can't always control what's going on outside, but sometimes you can control what's happening in your body, or you can create a sense of control within. So being able to self-regulate using movement or art or music or whatever your choice of expressive modality is to decrease some of the emotional distress, I find to be really beneficial. For me, sometimes getting caught in my head just creates this loop that I can't get out of. And in the times during my life as a teenager where I was experiencing suicidal ideation myself, movement was the one thing that I could kind of get everything out and feel better about life, even if it was just temporary. So I do think having another more creative means, you use different parts of the brain than you use when you're just kind of trying to shift thoughts more cognitively, and that could be helpful for a lot of people.
What say you, Joelle?
Sorry, it took me a minute to unmute. So I do think it's definitely important to involve expressive therapies, consider them valid. Like I don't think it's as much of a problem as it used to be, but I do definitely think there are still people who don't consider expressive arts therapies valid, which is kind of ridiculous. I ran into that a lot when I was studying visual art therapy, that people were like, oh, that's a real thing. I definitely think it's valuable because some people just can't talk through their trauma. A lot of people just can't talk through their trauma. Like, you sit in a chair and talk about it. It doesn't work. And it's hard. Trauma locks you up, and a lot of things lock you up as a person. Given the chance to express in a number of different ways helps you to, first of all, figure out what's going on inside. And second of all, it gives you a chance to kind of express step by step on your own terms for what's a more natural language for you, and kind of reach out as you're comfortable. And that's why I started studying art therapy, because art was always kind of like one of my better languages. I think it's always important to offer people numerous ways to express and reach out for support.
Danielle?
I really like leaving myself on mute. Why is it important to All right, so I'm kind of a geek, and I'm really on a projective testing kind of kick right now. And I've been trying to do it in a creative way so that it allows the person that I'm working with to kind of feel like they're not in therapy, like we're just doing some type of an art project. I do a lot more, like, obviously, like I just said 40 times, like I don't know a lot about movement therapy, but I've been trying to do stuff like self-esteem building exercises and other types of stuff in the form of projective testing, where the kids that I work with don't even really realize that I'm kind of picking up cues on how they're feeling through the work that they're creating. And I think it's interesting for me from the clinician's perspective, because it really gives me a lot more insight into how they're feeling about themselves or the environment, or what's going on at school, whatever it is. Because a lot of times, especially with the population that I work with, there's a lot of difficulty in putting together words or sentences, or if you push some of my clients a little too far, being like, let's talk about what's going on, they'll flip out, and these are not normal tantrums that I deal with. So it's great to be able to utilize any type of art therapy, movement therapy, drama therapy, whatever it is, in a way that allows a different form of expression than just words. And that's one of my favorite things about it. So like I said, right now I'm trying to get creative with projective testing, because I've been able to tell a lot without even having to have the conversation from what's going on with the child at any given time. And this is extended to people that I've worked with who are incredibly suicidal, that have been hospitalized, that just returned home from hospitalization. So some of the people, when they're returning home from the hospital, have just as much of a difficult time expressing what they're feeling as right before. It's really unique. And then they have something that they themselves could look back on and whatnot when they're feeling better. So I think it's important.
I think you're important, Danielle.
You're important, Rudy.
Hudson, speaking of
Yeah.
important.
I am going to go back to my very first comment and say I think it's about agency. A lot of the suicidal ideation, a lot of the problems that people feel, but depression, a lot of those things, at least for me and my experience with it, comes down to agency and my ability to have control over the world around me. And so, I think I talked a little bit about the science earlier. Hamlet, give it a minute. And he's learned how to knock, so he's figured out the pattern of the knock, knock, knock. He thinks it's hilarious. But to me, it just comes down to agency. I can't control the world around me, but I can control how I move my body. And so if it's something that I'm struggling with or something that I'm trying to work through, that ability to say you have control of something can help somebody feel connected and solid, or more solid.
And Katie Gordon on Twitter had a great point too. Sometimes people can express their thoughts and emotions in art when they're too painful to express in words. Well said, Dr. Katie Gordon. I appreciate you. That sounds about right. Everyone right?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we are ready for final thoughts. Actually, a real quick question from Rihanna, since she's been our MVP tonight. This is a question for Jennifer. Is there a specific music that really resonates with people to begin with?
It really is not. There's no kind of across the board that I found. If I'm working with an older population, a more geriatric population, I'll start with, Frank Sinatra or something like that, because that tends to jar memories for them. But in most cases, I don't start with music. And I will wait until I see what someone is feeling, and if music can help them explore in a different sort of way, then we might go there. But I always ask what type of music that they like. And if you're, dealing with dementia or Alzheimer's, then I have a playlist of older songs that sometimes I'll play to just kind of jog memory, or for people who aren't sure what type of music they like, we'll explore. But there isn't one kind of across the board that I find one type of music that across the board works for everybody.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, Rihanna, as well. I really appreciate all your comments, Rihanna, so thank you. Rihanna also says, even just shaking out the body helps. No beat needed. Literally shake out the emotions. I often say this mantra, I'm here, I'm safe, I'm alive. For every problem, there is a solution. Focus on breath and get that pit in the stomach moving. Address the issue and shake it out and find a solution. Ground and breathe. Be patient with yourself. Your brain is processing. Thank you, Rihanna. Let's get to final thoughts now. Let's start. I guess let's go with Jennifer, and then we'll end with Hudson with the piggy update. So let's go, Jennifer. Final thoughts, and also while you're on the screen, feel free to self-promote. That's totally fine. Put yourself over, make yourself sound like $1,000,000, because no one else will.
My final thoughts are, find the therapeutic modality that works best for you, whether that be more conventional talk therapy, art therapy, music therapy, drama therapy, whatever gives you the means to express yourself in a way that feels really meaningful and nourishing for you is probably the best place for you at that point in time. I am on all of the social media places at Jen M. Sterling. So I look forward to maybe seeing and interacting with some of you that are watching on social media.
Yes, and what kind of content can we find at jennifersterling.com?
So jennifersterling.com is a lot of content around depression, especially as it relates to Black women and how oppression affects the body, and racial trauma. So because I work so heavily with Black women and women of color, that is where a lot of my content explores, yes.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you for coming into our weird world, talking about suicide and dance and movement and all kinds of fun stuff. I appreciate you. Final thoughts, Joelle?
I didn't really think about it beforehand. I definitely think that everyone should really consider expressive arts therapy, whether it's dance or music or art, as a possibility. Like, I don't think you should just dismiss it out of hand because it's something like you're not familiar with or you don't know a lot about. I think it ends up being helpful for more people than you would expect. It's not going to work for everyone, but it's something to consider.
But Joelle, what if you're like me and has no talent in absolutely anything?
It's not about talent. So for me, I say that, art therapy isn't about the product of the piece of art. It's about the process, and it's about what you get out of doing it for yourself, and that kind of process, not really like the end product.
Final thoughts, Danielle.
I feel as though Jennifer has inspired me to try and start Slayer therapy again. I tried to get some of the kids to turn into little metal heads. But I agree with what Jennifer says. It's just find something. It doesn't, if you're not a creative person, it doesn't mean that you can't participate in some form of creative art therapy. I have something right here that I've been using to try and relax myself. I have a very, very busy schedule, and mental health professionals also need to be able to utilize the coping skills that we give to other people. So I'm trying to do at least 10, 15 minutes a day of playing guitar in between, sleep, homework, and work. So yeah.
And where can people follow you on social media?
I actually do have a fan page. I don't know if I have any fans. And I also have an
I'm your
Instagram
fan.
account. You're probably my only fan, but that's fine. I'm going to be developing a website probably closer to the summer once I start the process of going into private practice, which is not going to be for like at least another 5 or 6 months. So find me on Twitter, Facebook, not my private Facebook and request there. So.
And do you have a P.O. box where people can send you gifts?
No, that's not happening. Unless you want to send
Final
me more
thoughts,
guitars.
Hudson? I will.
Hello, everyone. Hamlet says hi. My final thoughts before the piggy update is just
Not yet.
No, not yet. Not yet. Too soon. What's the Saturday Night Live? The thanks champagne. I would just say to get out there and move, and find what makes you feel good and incorporate it in to your life as much as possible. And if you can, find an amazing dance therapist to help you with stuff. The piggy update, everybody, if you don't know, this is Hamlet. He loves green beans, and he's got buck teeth. And today he escaped from a yard and went over to the neighbor's yard to try and buy Girl Scout cookies. And there was just a bunch of people standing around a pig trying to figure out where a pig came from. So Hamlet had quite the adventure today, just toddled down the street, walked down the sidewalk. It's pretty amazing. So Hamlet is on Instagram at Sir Hamlet Pig, and I am on Twitter and Instagram at Mental Strategy. Have a wonderful evening, everybody.
Will Hamlet be coming to AAS in April?
So maybe.
You steal my heart. Okay, that is a great tease. And for the record, SPSM Chat will be at the American Association of Suicidology conference. We will have boots on the ground, at least me, Hudson, and Joelle, hopefully Danielle. And so we'll have a live show then. More details to come. That's not until the end of April. Thank you, everyone. Next Sunday, we've got a doozy. I know it's Super Bowl Sunday, but we like to take no breaks. We're on a roll. So next Sunday, we've got Shelby Rowe, who's going to talk about the indigenous resistance. She's got a TED-style talk coming up at the same American Association of Suicidology conference where she'll talk about this, and actually we'll get to expound upon that before she even goes on stage. So you're going to get the full nitty-gritty details about what's going on in Native communities in the United States, at least, why the years and years of genocide have still stuck with many people and still continue to contribute to the suicide rates, which are very, very high in indigenous communities. Hopefully, you know that. But hopefully, you will join us next Sunday, same time, 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern time. That's going to be a wrap. Thank you, Jennifer Sterling. Make sure to go show some love to her. Thank you, Joelle. Thank you, Danielle Glick. Thank you, Hudson. Thank you, Krista, for running the back end. Thank you to all there. Thank you to Katie Gordon. Thank you to Elise. Thank you to Anya. Thank you to Peter. Hopefully that was all the people, of course. Thank you, Joelle and Hudson, for also contributing to the conversation as well. Oh, and thank you, Kevin Fitz, as well on Facebook, and Rihanna and Facebook. Until next Sunday, hold your piggies close.
His face.